episode of Tuesday Tunes with Kobi and McCoull. And my plan is to make another beat today, and I think I'm gonna go along the vibes of Russ because I've been listening to quite a few of his new songs from the recent album he put out in January. And I think it also links quite well to the video that I made last week when I was talking about mastering simplicity and the principles that I learned from Leonardo da Vinci. And I mentioned Russ being one of the artists that really seems to use this very well. So I kind of want to explore that and experiment making a beat that's of a similar vibe to the kind of stuff that Russ goes for. So I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. Obviously I'll probably end up putting some of my own twist on it, and I feel like that's one of the best things to do if you're gonna learn from other artists, is to be inspired by them but then find a way to make whatever it is that you do your own. But yeah, let's give it a go. I'm gonna start with some guitar. I can't get this one intonated properly, it just doesn't stay in tune and it's annoying. I'm not going to put a guitar solo in it because I don't know how to play it properly. Okay, so I've done the guitar, done the drums, now I just need to add in the bass. Cool, I mean, I think that's it done. That's the beauty of it. It just really doesn't need to be that complicated. That's one of the things that Russ seems to do so well. I mean, there's crazy videos of him where he's producing like things like What They Want or some of his most popular songs where he just literally uses the keys on his laptop and plays it out. But it works, that's the thing. If it works, it works. And so yeah, that's the challenge, I guess, is to not overcomplicate it. I'm gonna go tweak it a little bit and make it sound a little bit better. Maybe add in some nice reverse sounds and just a couple of polishing touches, and then I'll show you what I did. So I'm just going to break it down a little bit, talk you through some of the stuff that I did, even though all of it actually ended up being relatively simple, and I guess, like I was saying in the previous video, the aim was for it to be tasteful too. So probably start with the drums. I just had the kick, we're doing what the kick does, 85 BPM. And that kick is quite layered. It's not just a kick sound, there's like a cymbal hat shakery sound in with it as well, just to add some more energy to it, and then the snare comes along with it. And I wanted to do quite short, snappy and tight, and then hats, just whatever pattern I went for with them. And I wanted to vary them up a little bit. I didn't want them all to be identical because it makes it slightly more interesting to the ear. And then just added some shakers. Although, to be honest, that sounds kind of a little bit more like a hat. It doesn't really matter, just as long as it sounds good. And then I just added some other foley at the bottom here just to try and spice up the vibe or the groove. So that's the drum loop. I didn't do anything else to it. I just sent it through the mixer and then just put on some light compression and a little bit of EQ just to bring out some of the nicer frequencies. and to keep a nice level volume between all of them. Then moving on to the guitar, I used the chord progression that you heard earlier, but I kind of chopped it up a bit just to give space in between. Initially it just played all the way through and the note held, but I actually thought it would be nice to chop it up and make space, because space is kind of what I was going for. And I actually quite like the way it turned out, and I ended up putting one to the right, one to the left, and sometimes one in the middle, just to give a bit of stereo image. On its own it sounds like this. And that's just the little lick, and I sent them all to the same place. To be honest, I didn't process this really any differently, but I did keep the processing separate so that I could turn the guitar effects up and down. So like in this bit, when I want the good effects to come off and then come back up again, just to give more control over the sound, so it can be on and then off, rather than just a constant layer of effects the whole time. And again, it just contributes to the space. And I let the tails come back on sometimes just as a kind of artistic effect, and in some places I think it sounds cool, in other places it's a little bit trippy, but I kind of like it, so I just left it. And obviously when the drums come back in, the timing of it makes more sense, and it can kind of throws the track about a little bit. So then we have the 808. All it was just an 808 drum. I put some saturation on it and then just plugged in the MIDI notes that I wanted, and again I was just trying to keep it super simple. Then I decided to add some sort of synthy reverb sounds just to give it a little bit more texture and atmosphere in different places, and use the same technique that I used in the guitar to control the effect volume with the instrument volume. So you can see the automation there, where by controlling it from the instrument effects down here, I could turn it up and down whenever I'd like them to, rather than them just crowding out the mix with too much noise. But you can still have big reverbs in that way. And I was actually really happy with the way that they added nice texture to the song. To begin with, I had a melody that was far too intricate with that, and I had to cut it right back. The temptation for me was to just keep adding more stuff, and it just didn't need it. Even this alone wasn't necessarily essential, but I thought it added a nice touch to it, so I went with it. Then finally, just to spice it up, and it's kind of what I usually always do, is just added in some subtle vocal reverbs and like a little la-da-da, la-dee, la-dee-da singing bit. What did I even say this time? So there's like an airy, breathy one, and then there's a reverse sound. And I took that reverse sound from this, and I just sent it through a bunch of different processing to give it the reverb delay and that kind of thin, airy feel. I won't go into the full detail in today's video, but I think in the future maybe I'll break down a little bit more about the mixing process that I have and how I add effects and what sort of effects chains I use for my vocals, drums, instruments, all of that kind of stuff. But that can all come in the future. And then the only other thing that I did was added like a cute little lo-fi vinyl sound, just to add some atmosphere. But you can use this quite tastefully by taking it on and off. You can do it with all sounds, like having the control to turn sounds on and off. I always quite like that, because it changes the dynamic of the song. It's not just a wall of sound all the time, it's ebbing and flowing, and I like that. That's all of the elements of the song. Now all I then did after that was work out when to have which elements on and which elements off. So I just kind of played around with what sounded good, how it would rise, how it would fall, and essentially that's just all you have to do. So you've got like 4 main elements, and you just choose when to engage them or turn them on depending on which part of the song that you're in, and that's it. I would also even say that this is further on the produced and technical side, considering that actually some of Russ's most successful beats have had even way less production than this, because when you boil it all down to its elements, there's essentially 3 things that you need: is drums, instruments or a chord progression, and a bass. Those are pretty much the only elements that you need, and everything else is kind of just additional, just to try and spice it up a bit or make it a little bit more interesting. And then of course the vocals go on top of that, but just for the beat's sake, it's drums, instrument, and bass. There you have it, that's the whole beat, and I hope you like it. I actually really enjoy the way that it sounded and the way it turned out. And people keep mentioning that maybe I should just turn some of these songs into some of my own, and I think I will in the future. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can at the moment about the entire process. I'm by no means saying that this is exactly how Russ would do it, or how you should do it, or that this is identical to Russ's sound. It's more just inspired by some of his most popular sounds, and I think it even sounds more similar to his previous album, There Really Is a Wolf, than his most recent one. I'm finding the more that I'm doing these, the process is getting faster and more efficient every time, and it actually makes it more enjoyable because you can put things together quicker. So I guess for today is Tuesday Tunes top tip would be to do all you can to increase the efficiency of your production process, so that if you have an idea, it doesn't have to hang around for you fiddling around with stuff. And I've still got improvements to make in that area, and I'm sure everybody does, but I've definitely noticed the quicker my production speed has gotten, the more I'm enjoying all the stuff that I'm making, because you don't have to listen to the same loop over and over again or faff around not making any progress. When the progress is relatively quick, it just flows so much better, and it's like a snowball effect. So that's the top tip, is do anything you can to maximize the efficiency of your production process. That can involve things like having presets or pre-made drum loops, or just knowing the software much better so that you can test sounds even quicker, and then ultimately just practicing so that you know where to go when you have an idea. And it continues to improve for me, and it just makes the world of difference. All it needs now is some crazy lyrics and some killer vocals, and who knows where it could go. Awesome, well, I'm actually really pleased with the way that that turned out, and I hope you enjoyed it too. If you have any advice or things that you think I could have done to make it even better, then leave them down below in the comments. If you'd like to use the beat, there's also a link down below so that you can get access to the licenses, etc. But it is free for non-profit use anyway. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, got some value out of it. If there's anything else you'd like me to talk about, or other videos you'd like me to make in the future, then please do let me know. I'm still kind of figuring out what topics I really want to dive into and what kind of content I want to keep making on this channel, whilst working on all my other own projects and projects with some other people, which, like I've said before, I can't wait to share with you all. I know that Russ can be a little bit controversial in the hip hop and rap scene, but I guess many of the artists in that scene are. It's a controversial scene, I guess, in its own right, and I usually just enjoy listening to the music. To be honest, if it's a good song, it's a good song, regardless of who wrote it, or how they wrote it, or if they mixed, mastered and produced it as well. So that's everything for this video. I'm really pleased that you came along to check it out. If you want to contact me more directly, you can get me via my Instagram, which is linked down in the description as well. So thank you once more, and I'll see you in the next video. But until then, bye!